How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com. Welcome back to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin.
And this is Richard Campbell.
We're here in our respective studios. I saw you on Windows Weekly yesterday.
Oh, you what? Yeah, you watched the live stream of that.
I did. So tell me what you're doing on Windows Weekly besides, stirring up hate and discontent and whiskey.
I mean, in the end, I've come to appreciate that when this all happened because Mary Jo Foley left ZDNet.
Yeah.
She went to work for Directions on Microsoft, which is an analyst group, mostly ex-Microsofties. And she's really their sort of lead writer, organizer, does the blogs and things like that. She loves the new roles, like super happy.
Yeah.
But Windows Weekly wasn't compatible with that. And so Paul and Leo were doing it on their own for a few weeks. And Paul was so sad.
You guys are buddies from way back when.
We've been buddies for a long time. And so I came in and guested a couple of times. And actually, it was Leo who said, like, what are we going to do to make it permanent?
That's kind of how it worked with you and me in .NET Rocks, isn't it?
Close, isn't it? Yeah.
You were Richard the toy boy, and then it's like,
you should stay. Can you stay? How about you can stay?
Yeah. That's very cool. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was great.
Yeah, Paul is a prolific writer, like a dozen articles a week. It's insane. And in a lot of ways, the show is basically going over what Paul's written that week.
Right.
Which is fine. I'm familiar with most of the subjects. I have opinions, and it's easy to make fun of Paul. And then they added that, MJ used to do this closing bit on her malt liquor of the week, her beer of the week. She does like her craft beer. And so they asked if I could put something there. And it's like, how about brown liquor? And of course, he's never forgotten you and I, and he refers to us to this day as the Bourbon Brothers, going up there after a build, and they cracked that Abelor Abunda, the cask strength.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That stuff. He was gooned by the time we were done.
Yeah, they ran a couple of clips of that day, right? Where I think Paul said something along the lines of, I feel like I've been shot in the tongue. Anyway, so every week now I do a different thing on whiskey, and they've been clipping them and putting them into a playlist on YouTube as well, including over 8 parts. I described Scottish whiskey creation in detail. And if you combine those 8 bits together, 2.5 hours. So basically, there's a 2.5 hour geek out on making Scottish whiskey out there if you want it.
So you sent me a link to the live recording.
Yeah.
But you guys don't publish a live recording. You publish an edited recording, right?
Yeah. They publish a podcast essentially.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's just that they also stream it. In some respects, and like every podcast, they're struggling financially.
Yeah.
So where they used to literally have a 24-hour stream with interstitials and stuff, they've cut that back to we just stream their recordings.
Well, it's really fun, and I encourage all the .NET Rocks listeners to go check out Windows Weekly. Just Google it. It's at twit.tv, and you can get more Richard Campbell that way.
That's a lot of Richard Campbell.
Let's get into Better Know Framework.
Awesome. All right, man, what do you got?
So a friend of mine said, have you seen this? It's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/@JimBrowning. Jim Browning is a faux name, a nom de plume. This is an anonymous guy who finds scammers.
Oh, yeah.
And confronts them, and in some cases gets them convicted. So tracking and identifying scammers who knock on my front door, call me, or shove pop-ups onto my computer screen.
Yeah.
And there's a series of amazing videos here where he does just that.
Yeah, no, and he's been like literally unraveled a huge scam group in India. Like it's amazing. It's remarkable the work, but there is a certain amount of just the schadenfreude of the scammer being scammed.
Absolutely. I love it. Schadenfreude is the perfect word here. Yeah.
So anyway, I really do appreciate that. And I have also noticed, and you may have noticed this, and I'm going to bring it up on Security This Week later today, that if you have any kind of Facebook page, not a personal page, but a Facebook page, a business page, Irina is already nodding her head. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's this scam that is going on where people send you instant messages, Facebook messages saying they're representing Facebook and your page is about to be shut down for some copyright infringements or whatever, unless you respond to this and blah, blah, blah. And at first it really confused me because it was very, official looking. And then I noticed I was getting the same message from like Bob.
Right.
And, Ahmed and all these other people. And I'm like, okay, this isn't real.
Well, and the accounts get deleted pretty quickly too, right? Like,
yeah, they do. But I mean, talk about schadenfreude. I just have a strange urge to reply, bite me.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. You don't roll around with pigs. Not only will you not get anywhere, but the pig enjoys it.
Well, .NET Rocks has gotten just a spate of these messages.
Yes.
So if you're any of the people who sent them to me, bite me. And Franklin Brothers Band, another page that I have, has gotten slews of them. Like I'm talking maybe 30, 40 of them. Bite me, bite me, bite me.
Well, and you imagine when you're not a technical person, just how freaky this must be. Like it must be effective. But it speaks to the state of Facebook, isn't it? It's just a cesspool now.
I like Spacebook better than Facebook. Actually, that's a really much better word for it.
Yeah.
Because it's out in outer space sometimes.
You would hope.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I got, Richard. Who's talking to us today?
Grabbed a comment off of show 1797, which we did back in June of 22 with one Irina Scurtu. Maybe you've heard of her.
Never heard of her.
Yeah. And oddly enough, we were talking about gRPC. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, this comment comes from Code Pooter, otherwise known as Richard Rukima, who's also been a guest on the show back in March 22.
And was also a student at Code in a Castle in Tuscany.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he came to Tuscany. It took me a while to figure out who he was because I'd never seen him in person.
Yeah. Get him out of character, right?
What a great guy, though.
Yeah,
and he's in your neck of the woods, I think.
Yes, somewhere nearby, not too close. I don't know. I have to double check, but it might be is it Alberta? Anyway, his comment is in reference to gRPC, where he says you might want to review protobuffers.
Yeah,
for gRPC and .NET developers, and specifically the .NET library for protobuffers. I never understood why I should create a protobuf file to describe a message in all languages for my .NET apps, which uses my API for my application. So it's just one of those utilities, and I'll include a link on the show to dealing with idiomatic.NET with the protocol buffers library. So
yeah, we went over gRPC and Blazor in the masterclass there.
Right.
And so, protobuf is just part of the thing. That's the protocol that gRPC uses.
Yes, the way to go. So, Richard, thanks so much for your comment. I'm pretty sure you got a copy of Music to Code By, but ping me anyway, and we'll hook you up. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Code By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there. And if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music to Go By.
And you could also send us a tweet or an X or whatever the hell they call them these days. I'm at Carl Franklin. He's at Rich Campbell. Or you could be like all the other cool kids and go to Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at techhub.social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at mastodon.social.
Send us a toot or a tweet or an X or whatever the bleep you call those things now.
Yeah, I don't even know.
It'll always be Twitter to me. I'm sorry, Elon.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That your evil plan is not working.
Not really that story. Yeah.
No, okay. I'm not sorry. I'll say it like my wife. My wife, Kelly, she has a habit of apologizing for no apparent reason,
Right.
Anything. And she's realized this. And now she says, sorry, not sorry, fuck you. Constantly. It's the cutest thing.
That's pretty straightforward. Okay. She can't stop the reflex, but she can follow it up.
That's right. Exactly. It's like an afterthought. And now it's just become one of those family things.
Right.
All right. Let's bring on Irina back for more. Irina Scurtu is a Microsoft MVP for developer technologies, a software architect, an independent consultant, and Microsoft certified trainer, always in a quest for the latest trends and best practices in architecture.NET. and the world around it also. Having more than 2,000 hours of delivered trainings, classings, workshops, and presentations, she loves to help others grow. Twice a year for 5 months, she teaches .NET and C# to people that either want to switch careers and get into software development or simply learn new things. Very, very cool. She tries to lead by example and believes in the importance of growing tech communities. She is the co-founder of .NET Yash user group. That's IASI, Yash, of course.
Obviously.
And .NET Days.ro conference, where she tries to gather people that are willing to share their knowledge with others or gather around in the community. And from time to time, she publishes articles on her blog, Irina.codes. Awesome domain there, codes. I got to look into that.
Yeah,
Carl
that's
Franklin
a good TLD.
codes.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's great.
I've heard of this .NET Days.ro. When have I heard of this?
I wonder why.
All right, tell everybody. Come on.
I'm coming to Yash. I'm gonna come.
Yay!
I'm going to Yash. I've never been. I've been to Cluj. I've been around Romania.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never done. I've done any. Yeah, I haven't gone to Yash. I'm like, I got to go to Yash. I don't know that I'll go to Moldova while I'm there because it's very close to Moldova. But it's kind of a sketchy time to go to Moldova right now.
I have a yash on my wrist, and you put a little ointment on it, and it's going away. So we're talking gRPC here.
It's been a spell, more than a year. Last time we checked in, and you've been writing new courseware and stuff. Like, there's more to know, right?
Yeah, there's more to know, and the technology is well established.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. No. So it's in the last year, there's been some innovations in gRPC?
More stabilizations, if that's a word.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that.
Yeah, so gRPC is here to stay, if you ask me.
And we're really talking gRPC web, right? Because that's what most developers use. Is that true?
No.
No?
We're talking gRPC like backend technology.
Okay.
For server, for the server bit.
Server to server, yeah. Microservices. Yeah. Okay. So gRPC web, obviously for browsers. So it started at Google, but they claim that gRPC is a recursive acronym called gRPC remote procedure calls. And so if you go there, gRPC.io, that's what they say. But they built it for, as you say, microservices, service to service kind of interaction, which doesn't require HTTP.
Where they built it to fool people that a distributed system is the monolith, like the way that things are behaving.
What, the G doesn't stand for Google?
It used to. They claim it doesn't now because they opened it up. I think, it's just kind of a wink.
Yeah, it's just,
it's
retroactive re-acronyming.
Yeah, reassigning. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So what's new?
So the tooling is new and stable, which makes me very glad that, Visual Studio caught up with everything that happens in gRPC. Cool. So now you don't have problems with types not being recognized and stuff like that.
Okay.
Awesome. And also you have an option in Visual Studio, right click, add reference, and you'll search and find the proto file, and it will automatically install some packages for you.
Right.
And that's awesome because we want straightforward things. We do not want to remember what packages we need to install.
Yep. And there's a bunch of them in for the different places too. Yeah. And you talked about types. When you generate a client or a service, you have to define these types in a proto file, as Richard Rukama was saying. Mm-hmm. And those types don't, the actual types like string, int, whatever, some of them map, but a lot of them don't. And I always find it difficult if I'm doing anything complex nowadays I ask ChatGPT, but usually I would go browsing for it. What is the prototype that matches, a double array or something like that?
Well, basically, they try to help us with something that is called Google well-known types, which is the common ground between all languages out there. But if you need something specific, only for a specific language, you'll have to mimic and code it yourself in protobuf.
Yeah, you create your own message type that has whatever in it.
Yeah.
The doc literally says protocol buffers well-known types.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so I presume as soon as you go off this list, now you've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But this is what protobuf's all about, right?
Yeah, it's not a language. It's a code generation template, really.
Yep. So basically the fact that we're writing and defining the services and the types in protobufs, and it makes us understand the new syntax, the new types, and all its overhead for us.
Yeah.
But you can also have the option of starting with your own existing types and to use like code first gRPC.
Right.
Due to a nice library written by Mark Gravel, which allows you to reuse if you have WCF, for example, and you have types that are annotating with data contracts and stuff like that. You can like get rid of protobufs.
That was one of the first things that I wrote as well. And I showed it on Blazor Train back when I first learned gRPC. I was like, well, what if I've already got, like, say, an API layer? I've already got my types. Now I have to redo them. And now I've got duplicate code and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's a smart idea. Just you make a code generator.
Kind of.
I'm sorry. When you say it that way, it doesn't feel like a smart idea anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's a lot of weirdness.
Yeah.
But there's there's problems there because you have to, every time that you get a call or a bunch of variables, you have to convert them in the service, right? So there has to be stuff in there that runs at runtime, and you have to take into account all the types. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, but basically, let's be honest. We all kind of use basic types with our other types, custom ones. So as long as those are like interoperable, or they can work with Node.js or something else.
Sure.
Yeah, back to why do we build types? Why do we do this? How does this really save us pain? Is it just because it's easier to pass in APIs?
Basically, once you start with gRPC, you have one source of truth, or you should have, like this protocol buffers file. And the point of gRPC, beyond the fact that it uses a binary serialization, is that now you can have a C# consumer that talks with a Node.js server. And the only thing that these two have in common is that protocol buffers file that you write.
Right. And that's kind of the magical part about it. This is cross-platform without WS star and a whole lot of XML.
Oh, yeah.
And performance is amazing. I mean, I did some comparisons using gRPC Web in Blazor to download 5,000 records from an API and then from gRPC. And it was like a second and a half compared to like 250 milliseconds. Is that different? Yeah. And that's on the same machine, but still, I mean, that kind of ratio is what you can expect.
And yet, how is the adoption, Irina? Like, I still don't see the huge amount of traction for gRPC.
There isn't a huge amount of traction. What I'm seeing in my workshops and at the conferences, I'm hearing people talking about transitioning from WCF to gRPC.
Right.
This is the most common scenario.
Yeah.
And simply because they want to get to core.
Yeah.
And WCF is not going.
Indeed.
And nobody's waiting for the open source version of WCF.
Exactly.
And why would you anyway? There's a whole lot of pain in WCF. I don't know if you guys remember, but configuration nightmare is what I remember. That's why you guys like the Germans, Ingo Remmer and all those guys who were into WCF. They made the fortune on helping people configure their WCF services.
Well, and it also appeals to the mind with that kind of precision. Like, as long as you do it right, it works great. The moment you do it wrong, it's essentially undiagnosable. I get that. Where gRPC seems way more stripped down. It seems like the best part of .NET remoting, which I loved. Like, .NET remoting between two .NET services back in the day.
It's wonderful. Binary formatter.
It just worked. Like, it was nothing, and it was fast.
Binary
but
formatter.
It work with anybody else? No. So then they say, hey, you know what you'll like more? SOAP. They were wrong.
They were wrong.
That was a lie.
SOAP did not clean anything. I know what they were thinking.
Yeah, it wasn't simple. It didn't have any objects. It didn't provide access. And it wasn't a protocol. The name was
great.
perfect.
Oh, man. I could do this all day. So I know that you're, peer-to-peer in the microservices world, so you're not really using the HTTP web version of it, but I was following the way that what's the deal with HTTP2 and why didn't something work and does it work now? I'm sorry for being vague, but I just remember that there was a problem with maybe Azure not supporting HTTP2 and that's why gRPC web came around. I don't know.
Something like that. They added gRPC into like .NET World in 2019, but Azure wasn't supporting that until, I don't know, last year or something. So it has been a gap around it.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And it's not like HTTP2 is new. We were using it at Strangeloop, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking HTTP 3.
Yes.
So it's not even new anymore.
HTTP2 was implemented in 2018 in the Azure App Service.
Yeah.
All right. So it's been a few years, but it's still, they didn't get to it soon.
No, I don't know why.
Yeah. We don't know the cloud problems, and we don't want to know the cloud problems.
Oh, yeah.
Those are hard problems. I don't envy those guys.
And are browsers using HTTP2 now?
Yes.
They are. Since when?
Yeah, for a long time.
For a long time?
Because it was easy, relatively speaking. Making it work on the server was the hard part, right?
Yeah.
And it was, 2015 was when it was ratified for browser side.
Okay.
So the fact that it took 3 years for Azure to get it going just on app service, like they still got to do a front door and all those other pieces, like that makes sense to me. But we were battling that. We sold Strangeloop in 2013, and one of the reasons you use Strangeloop was that it did terminate HTTP2 for you. So
these are little bits of information that have fallen out of my ears and my brain.
And you don't want to know this stuff.
I know, that's just it. It's not story worthy, you know?
Yeah. This is the plumbing that makes the internet go around. Like once upon a time, the web was just not that robust, and having 2 connections to a web server was a lot.
So has the performance or scalability of gRPC improved over the last year?
I don't know about it being improved, but I just recently wrote a blog about hosting gRPC in Azure, and it was so simple. I was like, okay, no wonder that it took like 3 years for you to get app service and gRPC workable with each other. So it's very nice right now.
Oh, good. So again, you're talking tooling, Azure support, all of those things it's come into its own. I don't know why gRPC isn't more popular, because it's certainly so usable in just about every scenario where you have communication.
I think it's hard. I mean, if you have a greenfield app where you have services that need to talk with other downstream services and you need some kind of, I don't know, a request response scenario, then it's fine. But if you have a huge application that it's already well established, it's hard in terms of time to retrofit. So it will be a while.
Yeah, no. And if you're used to living in IIS land and then you just ported that up to app service, like you haven't really embraced a different view of the web. You're still kind of an IIS person.
Yeah.
And you just haven't grasped these ideas of reverse proxying and all of the other mindsets that other web approaches, not coming from .NET land, not coming from Microsoft land, embraced years ago. So, I still feel like we're playing catch up in a lot of respects.
The day I shut off Internet Information Server was the happiest day of my life.
Dude. I sent both my old servers to the e-cyclers. to be torn, taken apart. And that was a good day.
It was a good day.
I am now purging all racks out of my life. Like
I want to see it getting shredded. I'm not leaving until I see it shredded.
Well, I shredded the drives and then sent the chassis off. But the motherboards were from 2013. Like, they didn't owe anybody anything. I was on my third set of fans in those things. But no, I'm with you. It's a cloud world. Like, less is more at home.
Absolutely. Plus, never mind the security implications of Internet Information Server. Well, everything's on by default and blah, blah, blah.
It's the Swiss Army knife with all the blades out. Right.
So what have you been doing in your day-to-day life with gRPC that's interesting, Irina?
Basically helping teams that want to transition from WCF to gRPC. That's the most common scenario that I've found. I currently try to keep an eye on it just because they have some bits that really interest me. And when those bits will be established and mature enough, I think it will generate a lot of traction in the industry around gRPC. And I'm talking about gRPC transcoding, especially.
Oh, you said the T word.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Tell us. Transcoding.
So transcoding is a package that you can install and allows you to also call your gRPC service from the browser, as you would do with any other HTTP API. And it does the translation from JSON that you send in the browser to your gRPC service.
Now, is this different from gRPC Web?
Kinda. I mean,
but
it
accomplishes the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
Accomplishes the same thing, indeed. But it allows you from the browser to also specify endpoints and to define like routes. You can bind variables from the routes. You can have body that are bound to different models that you have as a parameter in your gRPC service. So
Powerful.
It's indeed. But now there's a lot of manual work that you need to do in order for that to work in a basic scenario. And what it happens currently is that if you have like an integration project or a unit testing project for your gRPC service, and you also want to add transcoding, bad luck. So nothing will work anymore.
No gRPC for you.
Yep. So take your mind off of it.
Yeah, don't go that way.
Yeah.
Things will be hard. And we should take a brief break.
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to pause here for these very important messages, and we'll be right back. And we're back. It's .NET Rocks. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Richard Campbell.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking to Irina Scurtu about gRPC. What's new in the last year? So far, it's tooling and Azure support and transcoding. I don't know if transcoding is new.
It's not necessarily new. Now it's like way better.
Way better.
Right.
Yeah.
New and improved.
Yep.
Improved, yes. And the WCF problem. That's...
Well, this really comes to that core issue. Like, you're doing all these migrations. What are the typical problems that a .NET dev coming from WCF have trying to understand gRPC? Like, what do you find you're explaining over and over again?
So I think the concept of gRPC itself, the fact that it resides and lives under the HTTP2 protocol, and you have these small requests that travel on one single connection.
Right.
That's the hard bit that developers don't understand at first. And then the fact that you have like different set of headers per gRPC request.
Right.
You have that concept that is named trailers that comes sent as a response from the server at the end. So there are a lot of new concepts.
Yeah, you mean you literally called it headers and then called it trailers.
Yeah. And you work with one type for both of them.
Right.
So a dictionary.
Sense to me.
Right? Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the point being they're called trailers because they come after the data instead of ahead of the data.
But the type that you use in order to actually add key value pairs to those trailers. It's a metadata type that you can also use to add headers that goes before in your gRPC request. So yeah,
it's just a naming problem. Like this seems straightforward, and yet the words are complicated.
It's not the first industry to confuse headers and trailers. Think of movies. Right? You see a movie trailer is your introduction to the movie. Why is it called a trailer? It should be called a header. Or an announcement. But it turns out there's a reason for that, because they used to show these double features and you did days in the theater. And the trailers for the next movie or whatever would come after the first one.
Right. And they just never changed the name.
They just never change it because it's a word and everybody knows what it is.
Right. So, but the point, and I think this is your point, Irina, is like if you work in gRPC metadata, it's going to generate the headers and the trailers as needed?
No, it's basically you add some extra concepts to the concepts that you already know, like the HTTP protocol. The HTTP protocol, it has headers, right? So you can add key value pairs in there. But underneath these, you also add key value pairs that are specific to a gRPC request.
Okay.
And depending on the part where you're adding those with the gRPC request or with the gRPC response, they're called differently.
Right.
So the header of a response is called the trailer.
Yeah. Kind of.
No problem. Excuse me.
Fine.
Excuse me while I take off my parachute and
okay. I get it. And it is all metadata. So it is good to think in the context of metadata. Let me tell you about the package I want to send. And some stuff's going to go up front. Some stuff's going to go back. It doesn't, don't get too sweaty about that.
And even though it's weird due to the fact this is implemented, it's very helpful because you might have things that don't fit in the message body, basically, in the request itself.
Right.
So you have to have a place where to shove those.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that you don't have a separate set of calls for the header and the trailer and so forth. You just speak to metadata and you can do all of the things. So in a lot of ways, it's simple. It's just describing it well. It feels challenging.
Right.
But there's also a nuance here. If we're talking about different gRPC modes, like when we have the server streaming modes or types will send several gRPC responses back to the client.
Right.
But only after all those messages are sent, you'll get those trailers.
Right.
So this is the way you'll know that, okay, I'm done. I received all the responses. Here's the trailers.
Yeah. Again, it's like the issue here with gRPC is that it can be a lot of different things. It can be, a synchronous streamer or just asynchronous messaging. And so the rules are different. So you got to be careful about using trailers in streaming mode because you don't know when you're going to get them. It could be a while.
Yep.
Yeah. I like to use gRPC in place of, REST API calls to controllers in a regular application, in a Blazor app, for example. I really love it. And of course, it wasn't meant to do that, but it works. It works great. It's fast.
And it's interesting you say that, Carl, that it wasn't meant to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't built for that.
What is gRPC meant to do? Like, it's not just about streaming either.
Well, Irina will take that. I mean, it was built for microservice communication, service to service.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with a short history. How many of us heard the term microservices? Like, I'm developing microservices. The team develops microservices, when in fact those are just services that respond with JSON.
Yeah,
and they pass that data to each other with JSON. Yeah, so people defaulted to something that is so-called REST, like to describe an API that responds with JSON as a data format.
Right. Which made all the REST people angry. I mean, what I remember about REST is mostly hearing I was doing it wrong.
Yeah,
I have so many beefs, and we were talking to Grant Barrett about this. I have so many beefs with people who use the wrong word for things, and I just got to learn to let it go and let them play on my lawn.
It's going to be okay.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. But I still have some. And here's one. When people describe the Browning Maillard reaction that they get on meat, they say it's caramelizing. No, it's not. It's not caramelizing. There's no sugar in meat. Little things like that. But people get a word for something and, it's popular. And so then they overuse it and they put it on everything.
And it's rest and restful, which is a nuance. So.
Restful.
I'm happier with rest-ish.
Yep, same.
I'm not going for perfection here, boys. I'm just trying to get my app to work.
Rested. Well rested.
It's well rested.
Best is to keep it simple.
Yeah, we should just start making up things and asking people on the show. So how long do you let that proof?
Well, I use the oiling library and then,
Oiler.
and then I wrap it.
Oh, man.
And then it's only proofed when doubled.
And then you got to punch
then
it
you
down.
bake it, you let it in the CI/CD to bake a bit.
Yep. Went down the pipeline to the bake. Yeah, we're making
you guys
this
are taking
situation
this
worse.
way to an
But you
extreme
can-
that
you
I'm
know-
really enjoying.
This all started with the metadata conversation and this naming problem, and now we've promptly painted a worse one. I'm presuming that the folks who wrote this were trying to do a good job, and it's still, there's some challenges here.
Yeah, but it's a technology that needs to mature, and it will mature enough when people will use it. Because otherwise, it's just a tool out there that nobody uses and no one will invest in developing it.
Yeah. And can you make it simpler? Like, it does feel like gRPC is maturing enough that we are looking at some simplicity down too, that tooling's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're getting there.
It is taken a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is a reason for it took that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was no support in Azure. I don't know about AWS, but the only moment where you could use gRPC in a real production environment was if you had a virtual machine where you could run the service.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really know how many people are doing that anymore.
Yeah, that's not a reason to run a VM. A reason to run a VM is you're trying to get, you're on your way off of it. Not that I'm building new things. I'm going to need a VM for it.
I fairly enjoyed a moment where I had to run APIs as Linux services.
Right.
Machines. Like, start those, see what's happening. I was very excited to do that.
That's a good way to slow people down from running a VM. You can run a VM, but only if it's Linux.
Yep. I had to learn a few commands in Linux.
Yeah. Sudo, make me a sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Sudo, make me a sudo. What is server reflection and how does that play into all of this?
So server reflection will allow you to discover what gRPC services you have available inside an endpoint. Services, operations, in fact. And the tooling, I'm going to talk about tooling and especially about Postman in here, because now it allows you to have like an URL of the service and use server reflection. And if you have reflection enabled on the server side, it will discover what it can do with that.
It's like Swagger for gRPC?
Kinda, yeah. And you can also execute those because Postman will generate messages for you, dummy ones, but you can use those in order to call those operations.
Nice.
Would you use Discover in production, or is this really just a tool when you're developing to make it easier to get hooked up?
I think it's meant to be used with API gateway or something like that.
Right. So sort of a self-service discovery.
Otherwise, I don't see the point to I mean, I think
you kind of should know your endpoints, right?
Right.
I'm never comfortable with this whole, we don't know where our endpoints are.
Yeah, no, because gRPC is meant for point-to-point communication, and that assumes that you know where you will make requests and what the endpoints are.
Requests should look like.
Yeah, because you have the protocol buffers files and types that describe basically what you have available.
Now you're twisting my brain up. Was like, am I going to generate the proto buffs on the fly because I've used Discovery to? This looks like bad decision making right here.
No.
Just because you could do it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I mean, but I appreciate you want something discoverable, if nothing else, just to spit out an error message, right? You have I don't know. This has been a thing for me lately. Like, I'm trying to write a better error message because object not found pisses everybody off. Like, I kind of got this reflex that if we made a call and it failed, then I'd like to invoke the discovery and include it in the log. So it's like, hey, I failed to make this call, but I did the discovery on it, and this is what it's actually expecting. Like, you've just shortened everybody's pain up a whole bunch, right? You don't have to go back and look. It's like, at the moment when I made this call, this is what it was expecting, and this is what we sent instead.
Yeah. But to be fair, reflection so far, for me, it has been useful just to play around to discover what's available on the path that I know, and with Postman, because it allows you to load the live URL and to see what's there and to invoke it for testing purposes, of course.
Nice. Yeah, and you like those tools. Like, it just gives you confidence of what's going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always prefer a tool where I can click 3 buttons to make sure the thing that I want it to works. Then, I don't know, manually create the client, try to debug it, see what's the error, if any. So it's easier.
Yeah, I like that.
I have a question for you. A particular question about streaming in gRPC, which I've been doing for a while, but I'm not really sure what's going on under the hood. So in your proto file, if you have an RPC that returns a stream of, some message type, that instead of, a repeated message type, then when you implement that, you would think that there would be an async enumerable in there somewhere. But instead, what you get is the request and an iServer stream writer of your type, and then a server call context. And then you basically can just await, response stream.write async, whatever your object is in a loop. And it, I was expecting an async enumerable in C#. Is that what's actually happening under the hood?
To be fair, I don't know for sure, but to be fair, I don't think that is what's happening under the hood. And I think they allowed us to have that stream reader writer, because you have the both, just to make it as low level as they can. Yeah. So you have this stream, your job to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I realize this is an answer I could easily find by going and looking at the source code on GitHub, but I just wondered if you knew.
I'm sorry. I'm going to air quote easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
You're right.
I can answer this question myself, because I can go and look at the source code, cut and paste it into GitHub Copilot, and say, what the hell does this mean?
Yeah.
Or we can ask ChatGPT.
I was just going to say, or you could ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. We all went to the same thing. Give me a large language model is going to answer this question for me.
Yeah. Now, do I trust it? That's the other question.
Now, was it correct? How would you know? Right? It's like, it's a great summarizer. If it wasn't a great summarizer, how would you know?
Yeah. That's right. Sounds good.
But always search and research the facts that ChatGPT gives you.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, you can say, what's the GitHub page where you found this answer? And it'll say, I have no idea.
It was somewhere in Google.
I'm sorry, this was derived from a mirror site on 4chan, so it must be correct.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we were talking about gRPC. I mean, because it's good. It's really good, right? As much as I think we've been hard on it today.
Yeah, I know. It really is amazing. Yeah.
But I appreciate tools like Postman. Like, oh, okay, yeah. If I was learning my way around gRPC, starting to play with requests through Postman so you can watch the interaction, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Just get started.
I mean, it also makes the binary human readable, which is awesome for Postman. Because at first, that was a showstopper. Like, how can I use a thing that is binary? I don't know how to decipher binary. So this tooling makes it way easier.
So training is a big part of what you do. Are there any regular classes that you teach online where we could learn this stuff?
Not up until now. Okay. I'm basically working on business-to-business contracts. So there are companies, if they call me, hey, we need to learn about this or that, I can provide them some trainings around it.
So if somebody was interested in that, what's the minimum number of people that you'd want to teach to?
Minimum. I did it for 5 people because the company wanted.
Right. And I guess
I
if
did
they
it
pay,
for
it doesn't
30.
matter.
If they pay you enough, you'll do it
Right?
to one, right?
But to be honest, I always prefer like having bigger group of people.
Sure.
Mhm.
So the questions are way easier to answer because
Yeah.
from 30 people or 15 people, you'll always find some questions that are interesting and they will start debates. And
yeah.
I always love the interaction with...
Yeah, you can put your hands back, sit back.
Now the
Yeah.
class is
Okay,
called by
guys.
itself.
Nice.
That's right. See what
But if
I
it's-
started?
Yeah, but if it's
Yeah.
everybody working on one project and you can get into a discussion about the project, like that's good
It's a
news.
great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. But you also have some online training stuff too,
Some videos?
maybe?
No?
Oh, yeah. Forgot about those. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking.
Those videos.
Oh, it was so hard to record those. It's
Oh,
a whole
man.
new job. So,
Yeah, different skill, isn't it?
oh yeah, a different life. I can.
Imagine.
Yeah. So,
Welcome to my world.
oh yeah, it's hard. So, big thumbs up for people that are doing this for a living or full time. They're content creators, and to put your cell phone camera and to speak like coherently. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Coherence comes with editing, though. You know, that's the good part.
yeah, if you know how to like take breaks or have stop words, and I learned that the hard way.
I do that. I subscribe to the max headroom style of editing where I just jump cut all the time.
A little twitchy.
So, yeah, as long as you can hear me and understand me, you can put up with a twitch or two,
Yeah.
I think.
That and the hard hair.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So-
Max.
So if anyone wants to learn more about gRPC, I have a class around 4 hours around gRPC from zero to hero. You can find the link on my blog. It's there with a small discount.
It'll be in the show notes too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's next? What's in your inbox?
To be fair, I need or want to start a YouTube channel. I have a gazillion plans.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, Meteor. Because I said I did this. I did the course. It's hard. It might be some learning curve for me with YouTube too, but it might also prove useful.
Well, feel free to reach out to me because I've been doing it for a long time, and if I
Yep.
can help in any way, I will.
For sure.
Yeah, cool.
I'm gonna book a slot in your calendar for that.
You bet.
And of course, by the time this show comes out, we'll have already been to NDC London and back again. But you and I will
And
see each
Jed.
other in NDC London.
Yep.
Very good. Anything else that we forgot to talk about, Irina?
Nothing that crosses my mind.
All right. Well, on that note, let's call it a show. Thanks very much for spending this time with us. It's always great to talk to you.
Same. Thank you.
All right. And we'll talk to you next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Got transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a toy boy.